Good morning. We'll call the Wednesday, May 14th meeting of the Criminal Justice Committee to order. Start with roll call, please.
Mr. Hess?
Present.
Mr. Lowy?
Present.
Mr. Carrico?
Present.
Mr. Swanson? Mr. Long?
Present.
Mr. Hunter? Ms. Andrade? Ms. Armour Earps? Ms. Monday?
Present.
Ms. Rittman-Agemi?
Present.
Ms. Amber Turner?
Present.
Mr. Marion? Mr. Crutcher? Mr. Nims? Ms. Denise Turner? We do have a quorum.
I need a motion to allow Miss Monday in for Zoom. Mr. Lowry, second by Miss Turner. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Up first, Chief Judge. What's that? Oh, yeah. While he's coming up, I'll take a motion to approve the minutes. Mr. Hunter, second by Mr. Lowry. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Yeah, I was waiting for that motion. Okay, let's
When you
see.
got here, I said you're here, so we can start.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you. Let's see. You may have heard that we had a new law go into effect on Monday. It's called Karina's Law, and we've been preparing for this for several months now. And what it does, let me back up a little bit. Karina Martinez was a lady that had secured an order of protection up north and against her husband, and she had 2 children. And about 2 weeks after the order of protection was entered, he got a gun and shot one of the kids, or shot both of the kids, and one of them survived. So what happened was the son that survived, he went to the Illinois legislature and he said, you know, we need a law to try to stop this kind of problem. So they passed Karina's Law in January to take effect in 90 days. The 90th day was Monday, May 11th. So it did go into effect. And what it allows for is for a person to come in only on orders of protection, not on stalking, no contact orders. But the person can come into court, request an order of protection, and request that a search warrant be issued. And there are several standards that have to be met regarding clear and present danger to that person, an immediate danger of immediate harm. If the judge finds all those factors, then the judge can issue a search warrant, and it would direct law enforcement to go out to the house, the car, or his person and secure any firearms that or parts that can be assembled into a firearm and secure those into custody. The issue is it's in the courtroom, it's just the petitioner and the judge. Those are, and maybe sometimes Harbor House, but usually it's just the petitioner and the judge. So there's no, at that point, there's no law enforcement involved, and there's no nobody else that's the respondent person that they're seeking the search warrant against is not present. So, you know, everyone's concerned about this law because of the ramifications of law enforcement going in and executing a search warrant. Sheriff's here, I'm sure that he can discuss or talk about that if he wants to. So we are dealing with that. We had one yesterday, a request for a search warrant, and I'm 99% certain that it was denied. I had to leave, but I'm pretty sure it was denied. The other thing I just wanted to mention was that the mental health court that we have going on has been securing grants, and they got notice that they did get approved for a grant through the it's the Federal Department of Justice, administered through the Illinois Criminal Justice Information Authority of Illinois. So they are the ones that are administering the grant, and it's for $107,348, and that's Mr. Chairman, that's not a matching grant. So yeah, and I think probation can talk about that too. They have they've been very involved in securing that grant, so as well as Judge Parkhurst. So that's all I have.
Any questions for the judge? Mr. Crutcher.
Yeah.
So, when those search warrants are done and they confiscate anything, how long till it's returned or however long that that order is.
Yeah, they're secured during the pendency of the order of protection,
Right.
which could go. There's an emergency order of protection that's good for a couple of weeks,
Right.
and then if a plenary order is entered, it's up to a maximum of 2 years. So it could be that long. The person can petition to have the firearms transferred to another person that's not in the house, or
Okay.
and they have to come into court and they have to satisfy certain requirements too. FOID card, and that they're not going to give the firearms to the respondent. So there's that procedure as well. But then they have to petition to get the firearms back at the conclusion of the case.
Ms. Andrade.
What if the person who's ordering the order of protection has a FOID card and has firearms?
Well, the order of protection is a stay-away order, so the petitioner and the respondent are going to be separated. So if the petitioner has a firearm, that's that they can keep that. But what you're saying is, if the police go into the same house and they find, let's say, her gun.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I mean, let's just say it was like a domestic violence type of deal.
And that could
Husband
be
and
noted
spouse.
on the search warrant, that there's a Ruger 357 that belongs to the petitioner. As long as the petitioner identifies that could be in the search warrant.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Yes, Ms. Monday.
Thank you. Judge, so why would a search warrant be declined or denied if there's not enough evidence that there needs to be one, but then you wouldn't have a TRO?
Well, one example might be that there's been an incident and the person's in custody, so there's not an immediate danger. But on the other hand, there could be an incident and he's out on the run, or she's out on the run, and if that's where the real danger comes in, because that person could come back into the home even if there's an order of protection. People violate them all the time.
So you said on this one, though, that just happened yesterday, it was denied. So I know you can't speak specifically, but I guess I'm just surprised that that would be denied unless the person was in custody. But
Well, there's a lot of other facts in this one yesterday that I can't go into.
yeah, of course, but okay.
Mhm.
Any other questions?
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Yep, thank you.
Up next would be the circuit clerks. Ms. Cianci is at a conference and she will not be here, but I take a motion to approve her report. Ms. Andrade, and second by Ms. Emming. Boy, can't talk this morning. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign. Motion carries. Up next, State's Attorney's Office. In the packet, you have a copy of his grand jury report and grand jury statistics report. Take a motion to approve. Ms. Andrade, second by Mr. Hunter. Good morning, Jim.
Morning. So you can see we're up to 341 felony indictments this year, and we started to put the prior years so you have some comparison as where we're at with the numbers. We didn't go back pretty farther than 23 because I think 2021, 22 was still kind of limited with COVID. We had fewer grand juries, and during some of those years we were going to preliminary hearings, so those numbers really wouldn't be representative. But definitely up this year. Anyone have any questions?
Questions on the report? Mr. Hunter.
Very much, Mr. Chairman. Do you see trends at all overall in terms of crime?
I got to say our juvenile numbers are down, which is positive. The number of kids coming into the system being referred for what they call delinquency, or the effectively criminal charges in juvenile court, and the number filed are down pretty substantially over the last couple of years. But we see a lot of repeat offenders, and I feel like a broken record, but When someone gets arrested for a crime that's non-detainable and they're immediately released, they go out and they do it again and again and again. We have people with 8, 9, 10 cases pending.
What is the impact of the after-school programs that you're involved in?
For the kids that are engaged in those programs, mentoring, as well as the Justice Academy, the after-school program, recidivism rate's real low. I think statewide you're around 48, 51% for juveniles. For our kids that we track, it's under 10%. So the program's working.
No.
Yeah.
You say 10%?
Under 10, yeah. Yeah, and that's the rate at which a kid gets in trouble and then reoffends, second or subsequent time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Kudos.
Any other questions? We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
All right, thank you.
That's it?
Yep. Don't forget, I don't know if anyone said yet, but what's today, Wednesday? Tomorrow is the
11.
police memorial at 11 a.m. On the courthouse lawn, so please come and join us.
Up next, Mr. Penelwick from the Public Defender's Office. Copy of his report
Phenomenal,
is in
10%.
file. Ms. Andrade, second by
Wow.
Ms. Turner from Kankakee. Good morning, Ed. Comments?
Any questions on the report? I have no comments. I'm always keeping an eye on the same things, but like I said, numbers are so fungible and it's so subjective. I've said this 1,000 times. If someone gets a bench warrant, we close out the case for our records, but it's still on our caseload because as soon as it gets picked up, it's back on our caseload. However, the numbers are going down a little bit, and as a trend goes, that's always a good thing. But like I said, Jim says, if they file more cases, we have more cases. It's just that simple. So there's a lot of things that we don't control, and that's a conversation we can have whenever anyone wants to have that conversation. But other than that, I have no comments.
Any questions? We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
I have nothing else to report.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
Probation, Mr. Latham. You also have a copy of Tom's report in there. Take a motion to approve, Mr. Carrico, second by Mr. Lowry. Morning, Tom.
Good morning. In regards to the report, as you can see, we have about 2,000, a little over 2,000 contacts last month. A little over 8,000 for the month year to date, or year to date, I should say. 471 drug tests, and we only have 4 juveniles in custody currently up at River Valley Detention Center. So, just the highlights of the report, unless there's any questions.
I thought I had something I wanted to ask you, but I don't see my note. Any questions on Tom's report? We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
The only other thing is, I think I discussed it, last meeting or the meeting before, about the probation fee and the new policy issued by the Supreme Court on the use of those fees. It's a split between 30% for operations, 70% for client-based services. And that's tricky in itself to make that happen. But the other part of that is the statute doesn't allow for operations for you to purchase computers or vehicles, which causes a lot of problems for a lot of, especially smaller counties, but like our Iroquois office, that's a big deal. The chairman and I have communicated about this. There's 2 Senate bills that were proposed to address those specific 2 items, is my understanding, just those 2 items as I read it. Obviously, we support that. It's difficult. I mean, the vehicles, computers, especially in like Iroquois, where the revenue is just, the budget's smaller. My understanding is they didn't get out of committee. They're still out there active. Probably be connected to something else, but hopefully that'll go through and help out a lot. Give us some options at least. The 30%, 70% coming into clients is tricky. Anticipating this last budget cycle, we started moving things around between the special fund and general fund, dollar for dollar, to come into compliance and try to make it, but it's a little bit difficult. But we're trying. It's just pushing more things to the general, so it's just, so we're trying to massage it. We have until 2028 to come into compliance, so we have a little time. So But I'll keep you posted on that legislation because that's important.
Another one of them fun mandates.
Well, it's just frustrating because the 70-30 sounds fine, but when you try to do it on a budget, when you try to budget that out and throughout the year, it's kind of tricky because But again, I'll keep everyone posted.
Questions for Tom? Anything else?
Nope, that's it. Like Judge Cunningham brought up the grant for mental health court. It really helps as far as startup cost, treatment, transportation, housing, and everything to get that court. So it's a big deal. So hopefully I think June we get the final word of it, but it looks good. So we'll see what happens.
Questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Up next, the sheriff. Copy of his monthly reports in the packet. Take a motion to approve that. Mr. Hunter and Miss Andrade.
Like this. Somebody from the township was trying to get over.
Good morning, sir. Oh, good morning.
It's going to be a long meeting. Good morning. Just to touch a little bit on what Judge Cunnington talked about regarding Karina's Law. That was filed. It's been I don't want to say a fight because I think law enforcement understands the impact that involving a domestic or an order protection and the safety of the petitioner. But the question becomes, when does that search warrant get issued? And I think the courts, although this just took effect Monday, I think the courts are certainly equipped to determine when there should be a search warrant and when there shouldn't be for an offender's guns. So like everything else, when we talk about things that get passed in Springfield, sometimes we don't know the impact for quite some time. It's been 2 days. Apparently one has been denied. One thing you should know as part of the whole passing of that legislation, the initial legislation had the sheriff doing every search warrant of an order of protection.
No, you can't.
Yes. Fortunately, and I'm sure that, and I know our local chiefs already know this, but one of the things that I had suggested was, why don't the jurisdiction that handled the domestic be responsible for the search warrant, because they know the victims, they know the players, they know the neighborhood, they know the family, and ultimately that was included in the legislation. So now this affects every municipality when it comes to doing a search warrant. The downside of that, though, is you've got smaller towns that don't have resources to go into houses and effectively execute a search warrant. We're fortunate in Kankakee County that there will be assistance by the other departments. We've all talked as department heads and chiefs and said, when a municipality needs help, there will certainly be enough law enforcement there to keep everyone safe. So we'll see how it goes, and I'm sure that you'll hear more on this as we move forward. But that's about all I can tell you about Karina's Law, because we really haven't had to deal with it yet. On the report, obviously, I'm sure that you probably looked at the revenue, and projections are still about the same from now until the end of the year. It looks like we may be right around $2 million less than last year. But I will, just so those who are new to this committee, and I don't know if anybody's besides Mr. Hess has been on here for more than 20 years, but
thank you.
Well, that wasn't a shot. That was just your experience. Yeah. But we have been housing inmates for a number of agencies since 2005, since the new jail opened. And so when we talk about revenue and what, you know, a lot of people talk and used to use the term profit, although fortunately I haven't heard that in a long time because it's not really profit. What this number does and what this revenue does is it offsets the cost of housing our own inmates, and it gets it off the back of our local taxpayers. We're able to utilize other funds for other departments, and so the entire county can run efficiently and effectively. So, but to give you a little bit of history, over the course of those 20 years, we have housed, for Cook County, at a tune of $12,571,000 in revenue. McLean County, which is the Bloomington Normal area, at $474,000 over those 20 years. Kane County at $1.8 million. Iroquois County at $4,485. Champaign County, who has begun returning their inmates back to Champaign at $7,862,000. The U.S. Marshal in the Southern District at $1,656. The Central District of Illinois, which is Springfield, Peoria, at $9,361,000. The Northern District of Chicago, which is our main contributor to inmates in our facility, $95,752,000 over 20 years. The Northern District of Indiana at $21,723,000. ICE at $16,713,000, and we've actually held also for a federal agency in Wisconsin for $13,680. Now, why do I give you all those numbers? Because if you total them all up, and I know I talked too fast, so you probably didn't add them up, but I did it for you. That's a total of $166,342,774 over 20 years of additional revenue that was brought into Kankakee County. Now, that does not include the expense that it costs, because there is expense. We all know that. But when you look at the average over those 20 years, that's an average of about $8.3 million a year. So there's been times where we've been above that average, upwards of $11 or $12 million, and there's been years where we've been below that average, like back in 2021 where it was $7 million, and probably 2025 where it's going to be $7 million or thereabouts. So this program has, you know, and it's volatile. I mean, it's up and down. A lot of it depends on national politics. And so we'll see what happens as we get to the end of the year. That revenue also doesn't include the salary reimbursement that we get for transports or the mileage reimbursements that we get for transports as well. So just to give you an idea, I don't want to create panic when you look at that number and say, oh my gosh, we're going to be down $2 million. That's not the first time that's happened, and it probably won't be the last time, but that gives you some perspective of where we're at financially. Questions on that part of the report?
Any question?
The rest of the report, the sworn, you know, there's some good news from the standpoint of accidents. They seem to be trending down. I know that our patrol division is probably gonna curse me for mentioning it, but it's just a fact right now that trends are down. Patrol is you know, working to keep our roads safe, and obviously those accidents aren't just county accidents, they're throughout the county, so credit to all law enforcement. And at this point in May 14th of 2025, Kankakee County has experienced 2 homicides, and those happened on January 1st. So we hope that trend continues as well, to stay at 2. Obviously 0 is the best number, but the rest of it is up for questions.
Mr. Hunter,
Thank
sorry.
you, Mr. Chairman. Sheriff Downey, with respect to the traffic trend you indicated, what, does the season play a role in terms of those numbers?
Well, sure. I mean, obviously, our winters fortunately have been fairly mild, so there wasn't a lot of ice and snow. But yeah, sure. I mean, there's a lot more accidents in the winter. But then you get in the summer, you got vacation, you get more people on the road. So yeah, it's some of it's seasonal, sure.
Any other questions on the report? We have a motion, a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Surplus vehicles?
Surplus vehicles.
Yeah, I think there's a
Yep.
handful of vehicles, some as old as 2011. And some, I think there's a couple on there that are 2020s, but obviously they are evaluated for their ability to function, and those vehicles are all non-functioning vehicles at this time that we will surplus.
That Ford van, it's only got 254,000.
Yeah,
That
I think
probably go to the maintenance
I think
department.
I'll tell you what, our fleet people do a great job with, and Jay Hansen, who's our the head of our fleet department, maintains those vehicles. He keeps them up. He makes sure our guys are doing what they need to do with their cars. So, that's always a plus when you can make cars last longer than they should. So,
Mr. Carrico.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I'd like to thank Sheriff Downey and Mr. Workman for organizing and facilitating the tour of the jail there. During my visit, I was informed of a additional service that being provided, and I know that Sheriff Downey has stated several times that we have an excellent healthcare service being offered to our inmates. And I was informed that we are going to have an in-house physical therapy and a possibility on the future coming up soon to have an occupational therapy service being provided, which believe that was outsourced, those services was being outsourced. So my question would be, since we're going to provide this in-house physical therapy service and possibly occupational therapy in addition to the other healthcare services, how could you tell us that this will help the county monetarily or save any money, or if those individuals are going to be then employees of the county from that point instead of outsourcing the services?
So that's a great question. I appreciate the shout out to our medical department because they do great work. So the benefit for having them come to the jail is that we don't have to transport them out of the jail. So that keeps our staff in the jail. It keeps, it limits that safety and security issue where the potential for somebody to do something while they're out of jail, while they're out on a transport. It's more or less the safety and security of our staff. It keeps our staff inside the jail, which they need to be. So that's the benefit that we see from bringing anything possible as far as treatment or rehab or anything else in-house.
So we're talking about safety in one way. There will be a safety issue by decreasing the transport.
Yes.
And now my other additional to that is those individuals then will not be considered to be a county employees.
No, they are not county employees.
So they're still going to be an outsourced by providing the service in-house.
We're still paying for the service,
right?
But we're not transporting, service. And it's in-house. So, and it just limits that security risk for everybody.
Excellent. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we have a motion, or I'd take a motion to declare these vehicles. Ms. Turner first and Mr. Lowry second for moments. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed,
Aye.
same sign. Motion carries. Warrants.
Yeah, so as I talked earlier about Karina's Law, and we'll have to wait and see because when new things happen, we normally have to wait and see how they work. even though I will tell you that we predicted a lot of what is happening, and you know, sometimes a blind squirrel finds a nut every now and then, and we get it right. But warrants, as since the Safety Act passed, this is what this is. This is 2024. This is our daily custody sheet that gets emailed out to probably 100 people every day, from social service agencies who are looking for, you know, they're looking to help in some way, to the public defender's office, state's attorney, clerk, and it identifies who is in custody that day and kind of helps establish the court call and the whole deal. So that's what this is, from January 2024 to December 31st of 2024. So we have one of these for every year that we hang on to, just to kind of watch trends, and boy, have they changed over the last couple of years. So one of the things that we went and looked through were what's happening with warrants, and I'll tell you that the issue with the warrants, most of the warrants that are issued are failure to appears. Very few, I mean, there are some warrants that are issued of an offense that got sent to the state's attorney's office. They issued a warrant, but 90+% of the warrants are failures to appear in court. And I know you've heard me talk about responsibility and accountability, of which the offenders normally take none. So just to give you a few numbers, and I went back through, so the Safety Act started on September 18th of 2023, or the elimination of cash bail. So from September 18th of 2023 to April 30th of 2025, there have been 1,585 warrant arrests in that time frame. So there was 1,500 warrants identified on these custody sheets from those dates I just told you. The number of individuals who might have served, or they spent the night in jail, basically, they got out the next day, was 1,297. So there's 1,585 warrant arrests, 1,297 of them got out of jail the next day. So really, realistically, there was no consequence other than spending the night in jail. If you remember, part of the changeover on September 18th was warrants that were issued prior to September 18th that still had a bond attached to them. That bond still applied. So if you got a warrant before September 18th, got arrested, there's a bond on that warrant. Either the bond was applied, or they went to court and they were released by the court. We don't know that. We just know that the bond was applied. There was 54 of those cases where people who had been arrested on an arrest warrant that was issued before September 18th. Now, of those 1,585 warrants that were arrested from September 18th of 23 to April 30th of 25, 178 of them were detained. So think about that number. Think about that number. So basically 82% of any warrant arrest was walking out of jail the next day. And the reason being, and understand, I am not here to criticize the state's attorney's office, the courts. I'm here to let you know how the Safety Act works. So 11% of those warrants were detained, 11%. And then 3% of the arrests were bond. Question?
Mr. Hunter.
Thank you for that information. That's kind of mind-boggling. Actually, the efforts that you guys initiate seems like for naught. But my question, I know that you're very heavy into the Illinois Sheriff's Association and their activities. Are you guys, I'm sure that similar data is being gathered by the respective jurisdictions, which you sheriffs serve, will you guys be testifying at any kind of legislative hearings?
Well, that's a great question, Mr. Hunter, because if there was any legislation that would be filed that would address this, we would be happy to testify. But since the 3 trailer bills, so the Safety Act, there was 3 trailer bills additionally. Since those 3 trailer bills, there have been nothing. I mean, there's been attempts by one party to fix the Safety Act that, as we know in majority rule Illinois, those bills never get called. So nothing goes to committee for a hearing for any sort of information. They don't want this information. They don't want it.
You know,
Safety Act's working if you ask them.
Oh Lord, no, it's not. But anyway, I've on occasion talked to Jim Rowe about the Safety Act and the lack of certain crimes not being incorporated into the Safety Act. Might there be an opportunity for the legislative entities that deal with the Sheriff's Association and the State's Attorney's Office get together and do something in that regard?
Are you talking legislators?
Well, what I'm saying is that I know Rowe has said, you know, 'cause I talk to Rowe all the time about different stuff, and he was saying there's certain crimes, you know, which are not detainable,
right?
And there are certain things that he thinks should be incorporated. And you've given some empirical stuff here. I mean, I always say facts and data don't lie, and it bothers me about only 3 trailer bills, and nobody's brought forth anything to address that.
Well, stuff has been brought, but it doesn't get called.
Oh, that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, so let me clarify one thing when you talk about facts and data, because this is my handwriting of going through all of this. So I'm giving it a plus or minus of about 3% that I made an error, or there was an error by whoever filled out the form. But I mean, it's pretty accurate. I mean, I would go to the gambling table with those numbers are pretty accurate. So
You don't gamble.
I don't. Now, I'm a big believer in not coming to you with a problem, but coming to you with a solution. Unfortunately, there's really not a good solution, because one of the options is if the courts don't issue the warrant, they would issue a summons, which the sheriff would have to serve. So now you've got all these people who don't show up. Now you've got the sheriff serving papers. That would ultimately be all we would do. So that's probably not a good solution. However, this is 2025. There's a lot of technology out there. And instead of just not showing up to court, there's a lot of options for somebody to contact the circuit clerk's office, to contact their lawyer, for those that are represented by lawyers. So, you know, but again, we live in a state that holds nobody accountable. So nobody's asking these people to be accountable. They're just saying, here's your next court date. If you don't show up, well, you're going to spend the night in jail and get out if your offense is non-detainable. Let me clarify that. But so what happened to accountability and responsibility of, you know, it's no different than any of us. If we can't do something, you're just not going to not show up. You're going to call somebody and say, hey, I'm sorry, I can't make it. I mean, I think that would bode well for all of us. It would bode well for the court system. It would bode well for these individuals who end up getting arrested. It would bode well for the ones that end up on Warrant Wednesday with funky hairdos. So I can't stress the responsibility and accountability enough. There are so many ways in 2025 to notify people that you're not going to be there. Hey, maybe the excuse is BS, but at least we know, and at least the court knows, and say, hey, okay, we'll give you another date, but you know, the next time you not show up, regardless of your excuse, we're going to issue a warrant. So, you know, I just think that, you know, we're not allowed, you know, the offenders get off the hook when it comes to some responsibility and accountability. That's my point basically. So,
What,
go ahead.
and the ones that spend one night in jail, what's that cost the county?
Well, if
With the
you,
bookings
if you
and-
well, our local figure a couple of years ago was $102 a day. We feed them 3 times. We have to do checks. We have staff. We have, yeah. I mean, there's a cost to it. There's a cost to it. But you could go through this paperwork and see who gets released because of the Safety Act that weren't here on warrants. You'd be baffled. It just baffles me that we're letting people out of jail for some of the things that they get charged with. Yeah, right.
Miss Andrade?
So I had somebody reach out to ask, can we start a petition about the Safety Act?
God bless you. Go ahead. It's probably, I hate to be Debbie Downer, but it's probably going to fall on deaf ears because they don't want, the one thing the legislature doesn't want is they don't want to put people in jail. If you look at our prison system, our governor is trying to empty our prisons because that's where he's saving money in his budget. This is the governor that owes us $15 million when they stopped letting us house for ICE, but that's a whole nother story. So, yeah, I'd be happy to sign a petition, do whatever, but it's going to fall on deaf ears because that's not what the majority of the legislators in Illinois want.
And then my second question is there a fee every time you guys have to go with a warrant? Does it get added onto their court fines?
Well, it does, but whether or not it gets paid or not is a whole nother story.
So we're just in ring around.
Everything gets waived. There's no, I mean, it is a roundabout way to defund the police if you want to know the truth, because we're doing all this additional work and not getting anything for it. But the state of Illinois says they haven't defunded the police. But
Mr. Carrico?
Yeah. Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Sheriff, I hate to do this, but I'm gonna have to ask that question because you mentioned this to me last time I was visiting the jail there. Could you speak a little bit on the situation of one of the inmates that came in, had all the work done for the T, and then got actually released, and why it was so fast, and why does the person get released right away, and after all the work, and how much did that cost to the county?
So that goes back to the healthcare, and one of the things that the jail standards say, the anybody who is brought into your jail, when he is released, he should be released with no what's the proper, well, I'm thinking of the proper term here. So he should leave health-wise at least the same as when he came in, if that makes sense, right? Well, we believe that inmate medical care is a public health issue. So the inmates that leave our facility leave better than when they came in health-wise. Now, what they do on the street, which we know what they do on the street, they don't take care of themselves, but they're not in our custody. When they're in our custody, they get good quality medical care and they're released. So the individual you're talking about is, she came in with a bad mouth, if you will, and for those that to basically meth mouth. When you're using methamphetamines, it affects your teeth. So she was treated. She came in December. She was treated by her dentist. She was treated by her medical. She was given antibiotics. She was given all this treatment, and none of it was working. Well, she was still in our custody. So the option was to take her to an oral surgeon. The oral surgeon in town doesn't see our inmates, so we have to take anybody requiring oral surgery to Joliet. Went to Joliet. They fixed her mouth at the end of March. at a cost to the county of $24,000. And then she was given probation on April 5th. So she walked out of here with a good, healthy mouth that I'm sure statistics will tell us will probably be ruined by her own drug use at a later time. But so that's the
Thank you,
story
sir.
that we talked about. And lastly, on this whole issue with the county-wide warrants, there's also the question of warrants that are from out of county or out of state. You know, we have to start determining who actually are we going to go pick up, and is it worth our time and effort to go pick them up? And the reason I say that is it's going to cost us 2 officers to travel, you know, in-state. It can be up to 4 or 5 hours one way. We go pick them up, bring them back here, and because of the Safety Act, they get released the next day. There's times where we've gone and pick up people where we don't pick them up. We hire an extradition company that picks up individuals who are out of state. And we pay a lot of money to have this extradition company do it, but it's cheaper than us paying officers, vehicle, overnight stays, and the whole deal. And we spend all this money, go pick up these individuals, get them back here, and they get released because of the Safety Act. So that's something that we weigh every day. We work with the state's attorney's office to determine if it's worth the time to go get these individuals, but we spend a lot of money on these 1,500 warrant arrests of processing these guys, only to be released the next day. So as you can, and somebody mentioned the frustration level. Yeah, there is a frustration level that both our patrolmen have and our correctional officers have. So,
Mr. Hunter.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I've always advocated that we need to have a retreat, and the various departments would come and make presentations. I appreciate this committee because there's so much invaluable information that we receive. When you know better, you do better, and you're able to convey specificities to our constituents. When you're in conversation and so forth, and people make some outlandish statements, we can provide empirical evidence, some of which has been shared here today. I just turned around and looked at Carico and gave him a thumbs up because I appreciate that question. And the questions that come to my colleagues to my left, I appreciate that because that way the department heads, each and every one of them, can provide information which makes our jobs a lot easier. And we become more informed as legislators.
2 things real quick. With our low numbers at the jail, we are able to do some much needed maintenance on our jail. Ted Workman is in the back, our facilities director, has done a great job in getting things up to speed. Building's 20 years old. Think of your own house. If you have a 20-year-old house, things start to break down. The jail's no different. And Ted and his staff have done a great job. I know that the chairman gave him a shout out yesterday, but he's sitting in the back room today. And we're doing a lot of cleaning. We're doing a lot of much needed maintenance on everything in the housing units. We're able to move inmates around a little bit. So there is somewhat of a benefit to having our numbers low at this time to get the building back up to speed. So if he comes to you, for those on building and grounds, if he comes to you for requests for the jail, that's why, because we can now, because our numbers are what they are. So, and then lastly, Jim already mentioned it, the Law Enforcement Memorial is tomorrow at 11 o'clock at the courthouse, and certainly like to see everybody there. And it's a solemn day that, we pay tribute to those who've given the ultimate sacrifice. So,
yep.
That's all I got.
Thank you, sir. Up next, Animal Control, Carrie. In the package, you have a copy of Carrie's monthly report. Take a motion to approve that. Mr. Crutcher, and second by Mr. Lowry.
Good morning.
Good morning.
A couple of things. Something was left off the report is the IPTIP for our yearly total to date is $55,110.02. A lot of that money that was inside there went to pay for our loan that we have on the building, so that's where that money was coming from. Something else, since we have been in the building, we have been able to handle more animals, obviously, so our impoundment has gone up and the number of animals handled has gone up as well. So that's also a benefit to community that we are able to help more animals that way. That is all I really have for the report, unless there's questions on it.
Any questions on the report? Mr. Hunter?
The contract?
Have not heard anything from them since I went to the code meeting in March, I want to say. February, March.
Was there kind of like a quasi commitment? I heard somebody, they said they were working on it, but
They said they would continue it until the next meeting, and I believe it was a February when I went, and I've not heard anything since then.
thank you.
Any other questions? We have a motion, a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Only other thing I have is Representative Haas has partnered with us for an adoption event we are hosting this Saturday from 9 to 12. We have about 12 or more adoptable pets ranging from 1 year to about 12 years old. So please stop out on Saturday and come see us.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Up next would be the coroner's office. Mr. Gester is in Springfield today, but I would take a motion to combine and approve his monthly reports and the monthly receipts of money. Mr. Crutcher, second by Ms. Turner from Kankakee. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed,
Aye.
same sign. Motion carries. Is there any old business to come before the committee? Any old business? Any new business? Mr. Carrico.
Mr. Chairman, motion to adjourn.
Second by Ms. Turner for moments. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.